much, and good afternoon. From my side also, sorry for the delay. We are honored to have you here in Frankfurt Airport's presentation jointly with Stat Times at the Shippers Afternoon here in Mumbai. It is indeed my pleasure and it's a privilege to be here. As Frankfurt Airport, we work with India since many, many years. Myself, in my background, I was the general manager of Delta Airlines in Europe for almost 20 years, and so with the acquisition of Pan American World Airways in 1991, this is when my regular trips to India started, so I'm here like 3-4 times a year since then. So I'm quite familiar and I feel very warm welcome always from the people I have to work with and deal with here. So this is kind of my second home. As you are aware, the Air Cargo India show and event is the largest of its kind for the Indian cargo industry, and looking at the recent years when that show grew and grew every second year, I've participated in that show since almost the beginning. It has developed to a forum where the cargo industry is coming together, is meeting, and the airlines and the forwarders and the airports and many other parts of the supply chain are talking together, are sitting here in various locations, and we are having very fruitful discussions about everything that goes with the supply chain, and especially with the effectiveness of air cargo to the producing manufacturing industry around the world. So when we were talking recently on what do we need to do, the Stat Times team and our teams, we were sitting together and we were looking at are we talking to everybody in the supply chain? Are we talking to every little piece? Are we missing out on anyone? And we came up with the opinion that we are talking to almost everybody but the shipper. So this is how the idea came to put this in place and to get it started with today's afternoon. So I have been on a roadshow to parts of India recently, and I've listened jointly with the Stat Times team to some of your concerns, some of your issues you have, some of your challenges that you are faced with as the shippers, both for the export and the import industry. And we thought we assemble the right people here, officials on the governmental side, customs, airport, government, as much as we possibly can. So we're extremely honored for those ladies and gentlemen that are here to join us this afternoon. I want to keep it short, and I would now turn it back over to get the first group here up on stage, the first speakers. Thank you.
Round of applause for Mr. Roland Bain, please. Let's have a round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, it gives us immense pleasure on behalf of PO and Frankfurt Airport to have all of you here. We'd like to welcome at first a few people, of course, seated amongst us now that you've joined us, and we are very, very immensely pleased to have you amongst us. Firstly, of course, we do have a note from Mr. Khalid Khan, the regional chairman of FIO, who's extended his apology for not being able to attend due to urgent meetings by the Ministry of Commerce. He, however, extends his best wishes for all the proceedings here. I would now like to acknowledge the presence of our various dignitaries amongst us, and we could give them a round of applause as they're seated amongst us right now. Let's have a round of applause for Mr. M. Thakur, the Joint Director General Foreign Trade, Government of India. For Mr. Anil Kumar Gupta, the Commissioner of Customs, Government of India. For Mr. Satya Prasad Sahu, the Commissioner, Information Technology, Central Board of Excise and Customs, Ministry of Finance. For Dr. Sudhanshu, the Deputy General Manager, Agricultural and Processed Food Products Development. Let's have a round of applause, please. For Mrs. Padmavati Rajashekaran, the General Manager, Export Credit Guarantee Corporation, ECGC. Let's have a round of applause, please. For Mr. Krishna V. Maskar, the Vice President and Secretary, Foreign Exchange Dealers Association of India. Let's have a round of applause, please. For Mr. Darshu Ziara, the Senior Vice President, Frankfurt Airport. Let's have a round of applause, please. For Mr. Pramod Sant, the Vice President, Siemens, Head of Import and Export, Export Control, Customs, South Asia Cluster. Let's have a round of applause, please. For Mr. Jayan T, the Executive Manager, Worldwide Logistics India, John Deere. Let's have a round of applause, please. For Mr. Uday Shinai, the Chairman, BBC Group. Let's have a round of applause, please. For Mr. Ajit Shah, the Senior Advisor. Let's have a round of applause, please. And finally, for Mr. Bernhard Steinrücker, the Director General, Indo-German Chamber of Commerce. Let's have a round of applause, please. Thank you so very much to all our dignitaries for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, in a short while from now, you will see them up on the dais. But at this point of time now, it gives me pleasure to invite up on stage for the keynote address, Mr. Mithileshwar Thakur, the Joint Director General of Foreign Trade. Let's have a round of applause as I invite him up on stage. Sir, if you could come to sir.
Friends, dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen. Well, we have assembled here today to discuss trade facilitation, but we are here at a time when the goings are not all that good. We are not in a very comfortable position. The picture is not all that rosy. And when I say this, I am probably putting it very mildly. It's an understatement. The fact is that we are in a precarious position. Indian exports have been constantly and consistently down for more than a year or so. And this is something unprecedented in recent memory. The only silver lining that I can see is that the decline and fall, this free fall in exports, is not on account of the usual problems that we have, or infrastructural inefficiencies, or the rising transaction cost, or our high cost of capital, delays, paperwork, all that the problems that we have been living with for all these years. The decline and fall in exports this time around is on account of the contraction in global demand, and perhaps to an extent the devaluation of Chinese currency. So the contraction in global demand, this is something that we cannot anything do about. How to go about it. So in these times, in these difficult times, all that we can do is to take the best available option that we can do, and that option is that we must try to revive and reactivate the mechanism of trade facilitation. Friends, the renowned economist and Vice Chairman Niti Aayog, Professor Pani Garia, is on record having said that India's GDP growth rate is primarily, on the impressive GDP growth rate that we had in last decade, is primarily on account of the enormous growth in exports. Not only India, we all know that Asian tigers, South Korea, Taiwan, and then China, they all have, the GDP growth rate of all these economies have piggybacked on growth in exports. So really, whether we believe it or not, India also has been in a kind of export-less growth scenario. And today, any economy worth its name cannot afford to ignore the element of foreign trade. We in India, our foreign trade accounts, I think for almost it accounts for more than 50% of our GDP. So no economy worth its name can afford to ignore international trade. And if any economy does, it does at its own peril. So the friends, and you know that all developed nations and the trade bodies, they believe that the only way trade can grow is to have an unhindered flow of goods and services across the borders. And that is what trade facilitation means. What is trade facilitation? Trade facilitation is about simplifying procedure. Trade facilitation is about streamlining procedure. Trade facilitation is about harmonizing procedure. It is about reducing transition cost and time. And in Indian context, in any other country, it is first moving to a paperless regime where we believe in digitization and there is less of paperwork. There has to be some kind of transparency and accountability in the system. Friends, without taking much of your time, I would like to say that the pattern of the global trade has undergone a fundamental change. Today, it is not as much as trading between firms, it is between supply chains. Any country which wants to go on a higher trajectory of export growth will have to be part of global value chain. And when we talk of global value chain, what we mean is that, the intermediates or the components from various countries, they get combined into production network. When we talk about global value chain, what we mean is, we mean internationalization of manufacturing process. There are more than one country at different stage participates in the manufacturing of a product. And this model requires, it requires a world-class infrastructure. It requires a very smart and efficient clearance at customs. It requires just-in-time production and just-in-time delivery. So basically, you cannot be a part of the global value chain unless you are very efficient and your systems are very dynamic. So in that context, the trade facilitation assumes more significance than ever before. Now in India, there are systems in place. When I talk about Department of Commerce and the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, we have tried to move towards a paperless regime. We have, we believe in efficient delivery of systems through massive exchange with community partners, through online filing applications. We are on 24/7, we are connected to our DGFT central server. So these systems are in place. We have created a very unique system of EBRC, where any exporter earning foreign exchange, they do not have to approach foreign banks at all for EBRC system. All these remittances get uploaded to DGFT server directly, and there are 90 banks on board. So 1.5 crores EBRC have been uploaded to DGFT server, and this data we have shared with 13 state governments and enforcement directorate. And state governments share this data because they want to be VAT refund and things like that. Similarly, customs also have trade facilitation measures in place. They have your risk management system in import and exports. They have now 24/7 clearance, accredited client program, authorized economic operator program, on-site post-clearance audit, so on and so forth. So systems are in place. Government is keen, and government has been consistently doing things. It's a different matter. The trade industry will not be, your expectation may be a little higher, and you may be a little falling short on your expectation. So there's always a kind of, gap between promise and performance. But then the government is doing, and more importantly, is keen on doing things. But friends, I would like to just give, my perspective that for me, individually, trade facilitation does not necessarily mean only these systems in place. Because there can already be systems in place, and the ground reality could be a little different. So what is more important, for me, trade facilitation does not necessarily mean systems, it means a change in mindset. It means a change in attitude. Trade facilitation for me means that you have to revive your helplines. You have to approach the problem of trade industry with some kind of empathy. When you deal with the problem of trade industry, you have to try to put into the shoes of the trade industry and do things what you can do best. Obviously, within the framework, within laws. But then suppose there is a minor infringement. The minor infringement has to be treated as a minor infringement. It should not be treated as a violation or a crime. So my only point is that trade facilitation besides systems is a concept of an individual, a mindset, and we, particularly a country like us, we need to have to undergo that kind of a change more than any other country. So our systems need to change, our mindset needs to change, our approach needs to change, and that is equally true of trade industry as well. Trade facilitation actually is based on trust-based model, and trust is never one-sided. So trade also has to be very responsible, and government has to be responsive and transparent and accountable. There is no denying that. I believe when we are able to accomplish this task, the trade facilitation will be there. And recently, as you know, we have been able to, India has ratified TFA, and the WTO projection is that the signing of trade facilitation agreement, the global mercantile exports would grow almost $1 billion annually. And the estimate of the Department of Commerce was that incomplete implementation of trade facilitation measures cost Indian government almost $6 billion every year. So this is something which we can minimize, we can do away with, and we can look for a better and better future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for that keynote address and setting the tone and the context for all the discussions to follow.